This is why we need to leave the Christian church. Tell us why we need to leave the Christian church.
Because the Christian church tells you that is not Solomon, that is some woman writing.
Now he's talking about this verse right here. Song of Solomon 1 verse 5. Previously, he's been saying this same thing. This is why we need to leave the Christian church, because Christians apparently will tell you that this verse is a woman writing. This might be the question and the comment of the day. From Nate P. What churches does he hear this from? That is a very good question, Nate. Kudos to you. What churches is he hearing that from? Because I don't believe I've ever heard a Christian say, this is a woman writing this. I've continued to hear Christians say that Solomon is writing the Song of Solomon. And in Song of Solomon, just like Shakespeare writes Romeo and Juliet, there's some things which are said by Romeo, i.e. the man in Song of Solomon, and there's some things in Romeo and Juliet which are said by Juliet, i.e. the woman in Song of Solomon. That's what I've continued to hear for years and years and years and years before I ever heard any Song of Solomon argument from a Hebrew Israelite. That's all I've heard. So it's a very powerful question for us to know the answer to. And I want to know the answer. I would love a Hebrew Israelite to click the link and to come on and show me or tell me about Christians who read the Song of Solomon or teach about the Song of Solomon and say a woman wrote verse 5. Because that is not our argument. That is not what we say. But if, like them, we are going to believe that this is Solomon apparently speaking, again, Solomon is saying he's black, but comely. Although I'm black, I'm beautiful. He didn't like his skin tone, apparently. He was black like his own curtains, the curtains of Solomon. He's speaking in the third person. Possible, but is it realistic in the context of this passage? No. In the verse previously I showed you earlier, down here, in verse 6, it talks about how this individual is being forced to look after other people's vineyards, but they can't look after their own vineyard. He wants us to believe that that's what was happening to Prince Solomon or King Solomon. They want us to believe that Solomon is black so much because of verse 5 that Solomon is desirous for another man to kiss him because that man's love is better than wine. Let him kiss me. Solomon is captivated with the man's fragrance. Solomon went into this king's bedroom, and that love that they shared in that bedroom was more memorable than wine, right? More memorable than wine. If you keep reading down the passage, it becomes even clearer. You see the man come into picture a couple of verses down. This is what this interpretation takes us to. Let's go back. This is why we need to leave the Christian church. This is why we need to leave. People need to leave this guy's cult and other Hebrew Israelite cults who believe this nonsense with him.
This is why we got to leave the Christian church, because the Christian church tells you that is not Solomon, that is some woman writing.
I saw someone earlier say, I just saw this straw man. This is a straw man argument, logical fallacy. A straw man is where you build up this false belief. You say, look, these people believe this thing, which we don't believe, and then you tear it down and then act like you did something. That's a straw man argument. You build up a man of straw, a straw man, and then it's easy to knock it over because the straw man isn't fighting back. But what is the ethical thing to do? What is the truthful thing to do? The truthful thing to do in dialogue and discussion is to take the best interpretation of somebody you're engaging with and then dealing with it. Take their actual argument and then engage with that argument. what I'm doing right now, I'm showing you what they're saying, and then I'm articulating, I'm saying what they believe, just so it's clear I understand what they're talking about, and then showing you why it's fallacious, why it's false. But he's continued to say for years that Christians believe this verse 5 was written by a woman, when I hope he doesn't truly believe that. Like, this is where you start getting in dilemmas, because, what should I say? I hope he's just mistaken. Because if he's not mistaken, that means he's being deceptive. And he knows full well that Christians don't teach this. But in order to make his argument look stronger and better, he will just make up this false argument. Christians believe this. This is why we need to leave the Christian church.
1 Kings 4, let's start at verse 30. And verse 32 is the point, but we're going to start at 30.
1 Kings chapter 4, verse 32. Verse 30. And Solomon's wisdom excelled the wisdom of all the children of the east country, and all the wisdom of Egypt, for he was wiser than all men. Then Ethan the Ezrahite, and Heman the Shakor, and Dartho the sons of Muhal, and his fame was in all nations round about.
Here it come.
And he spake 3,000 proverbs, and his songs were 1,005.
And his songs were 1,005. His songs. His songs.
His songs. This is exactly what Christians say. This song is Solomon's song. Solomon wrote this. But Solomon didn't write and say that he wanted a man to kiss him with the kisses of his mouth. Only someone with a demonic interpretation would come to that sort of conclusion. That's a demonic interpretation. That Solomon wanted a man to kiss him with the kisses of his mouth. That Solomon went into the bedroom with another king. Their love was memorable. That wouldn't be love if that was two men in there. That would be sin. Clear as day. So this isn't why we need to leave the Christian church as Christians. This is why we should be confident when we hear professing Hebrew Israelites speaking and attacking Christianity, because we know when we examine their arguments, they're weak, they're terrible. They'll lead you to demonic interpretations out of desperation to prove something about somebody's skin tone. I'm not surprised no Hebrew Israelite wants to click the link and join, because I would be embarrassed to have to defend something like this. For the leader of the biggest, most popular group today to be saying this so confidently, so boldly, so brashly, and to be attacking Christians while doing it is mind-boggling to me.